accountability for my actions, and I started doing things that put me in a bad spot, that put me in a bad place. But as I've grown and matured on my journey, I realized, like, life is about choices. It's certain choices and certain things that you do. And not only that, but certain things can impact your mindset. And I heard someone once say this, what I'm saying? Like, perception is reality. Like, how you perceive things, what you perceive in that moment or in that dimension is going to dictate what you do and how you move, and that's just some real stuff. So I'm learning on my journey that, I have to really be focused. I have to really take an honest assessment of where I am on my journey and what the expectations are and what my goals are. And what I'm saying, where I'm looking to go, because sometimes we don't go far because, like, we have limited exposure, we have limited mindset. We're around people that operate in a spirit of limitations. Like, you literally can be connected with people that will limit you. What I'm saying? They'll put you, like, I realized this in my journey. Like, I had to cut off certain friends because, like, their mindset. Anytime I'm trying to talk business, they want to play, they want to have fun, they want to party. And listen, that's fine, but it's like you got to really examine, like, who's around you. You got to examine where you eating from. You got to look at yourself. And when I said that to myself, I was like, wow, like, why am I really friends with this person? Oh, because we've been, what I'm saying, we've been connected since college, we've been connected since high school. We was homies from around the way. But I'm like, this person do the same stuff all the time. It ain't no growth. It ain't no change. Like, they not pushing themselves to do anything. What I'm saying? When the storms of life hit them, it beats them down. What I'm saying? And I was like, I don't want to model myself after that. I don't want to pick up that energy. I don't want to be like that. So, I had to make certain changes, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be associated with people that ain't trying to be on the move. I don't want to be associated people with a certain mindset, because why? Association brings about assimilation. Like, you're gonna look like who you hang around. You're gonna look like where you eat from. Even a certain friend I had, like, this friend, like, they always want to go out to eat. They always want to go, what I'm saying, to nice restaurants and buy food. But hey, like, for years I struggled with, like, with diabetes and high blood pressure. So I realized, I'm like, every time I kick it with this person, I'm here at this restaurant ordering up food, and I'm like, how I'm sitting up here ordering this kind of food, and I'm a doggone diabetic. I'm like, come on. So I had to realize, like, you gotta connect with the right people. What I'm saying? Like, that's strategic on your journey. You gotta be connected and plugged in with the right people, or else it's better for you to kick it on the journey by yourself. That's just some real stuff. And see, that's the thing. Some of y'all are afraid to be alone and by yourself. But what you don't realize is that, like, that separation on your journey is preparing the table and opening the door for the right connections that you are going to need, that's going to help you get to where you need to go. Like, because if you steady around these negative people, you steady around the people that's not feeding and pouring into your destiny, if you're steady around these type of people, you're going to stay with the pigeons. You're going to stay at the low level. You ain't going to be able to get into that altitude that you was born to be in. See, some of you are like, you were born to fly at a higher altitude. But see, the problem is, you're with your emotions and your mindset, because you were born to fly at this higher altitude, but your heart is steady trying to pull people that stay in low altitudes to walk with you. You steady trying to walk with these people that operate in low altitudes. And see, a lot of times you'll dummy yourself down, or you'll come down, or get in your emotions because you trying to shift into a higher altitude, but the people around you are low altitude people. They can't, they're not eagles. They can't get up in that mountain environment. They can't get up in that mountain dimension. Why? Because you got to be fit for that mountain dimension. Like some folks can't breathe in that altitude. You know what I'm saying? And when you try to start shifting into that altitude and trying to go higher, like they become lethargic. And listen, they'll turn on you and say, oh, you think you better than us. Oh, you know what I'm saying? That jealousy spirit will rise up and the drama will start coming forward. Like, oh, what's wrong with her? She thinks she better than somebody. She got a better job. She done started her business. She done got a car. She doing this. So what happens is them little attitudes in your windows start coming and them shots start coming at you. But what you don't realize is that's basically God's writing on the wall or red flags to show you that, hey, as I'm trying to shift your life, as I'm trying to shift you into another dimension, there's some things that gotta be purged. Like sometimes you gotta do the hard work. So what happens is because you're in your emotions, you want to be a good person, you want to keep it real, you want to connect with the homies, you know, you continue, you know what I'm saying, staying in them circles, you continue keeping up those friendships. You continue being in that bad relationship because in your heart you feel sorry. Let me tell you something about your heart. Baby, your heart will deceive you. And that's why the scripture even tell you, like, listen, the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. Because listen, sometimes you got to separate yourself. Sometimes you gotta let people go. Sometimes you gotta make hard decisions. Sometimes you gotta walk off of a job. Sometimes you gotta walk away from people. Sometimes you gotta walk away from relationships. Sometimes you have to walk away from family because your destiny is dependent on it. Your destiny is contingent on it. And if you continue wasting time around those destiny killers, you're going to find yourself 5 and 10 years later in the same spot. That's just some real talk. You're going to find yourself 5, 10 years later in the same spot. Why? Because you compromised. You didn't make the hard choice. You saw, and let me tell you something about your journey in life. You're gonna see the red flags. You're gonna see the writing that's on the wall. Let me tell you something. The Most High don't never leave you in the dark. If you pay attention, you gonna see it. But a lot of times I'm gonna tell you why we don't pay attention. We don't pay attention because we are led by our emotions, how we feel. And so our emotions are dictating and predicating our strategy in our movement. I'm telling you, that's some real stuff. Like I can go back, I can tell you, even from friends to relationships to marriages, you know, I can tell you all the red flags that were there. And guess what I did? I looked past all of those things. And see that's another thing. I'm gonna make a hit dog holler. Right. Another thing is sometimes we continue to see red flags in relationships. We continue to see red flags in marriages and in connections. And I'm gonna tell you where you go wrong. A lot of times you won't call stuff out. And listen, we think call stuff out is a bad thing. But listen, call stuff out is holding people accountable. So what happens is because we're good people, because we're empathetic, because you know what I'm saying, we want to be nice, we want to be loving, we want to be kind-hearted, and we take accountability out of the equation. And so what happens is when you're in connection with people, when you're relationshiping and you take accountability out of the equation, baby, you're going to create relationship chaos. You're gonna create a compromising of boundaries. You're gonna create bad situations where you begin to subject yourself to maladaptive behavior that's pointed towards you, as well as abuse and unappreciation. So when you take accountability out of the equation, that's the monster that you begin to create. And that's the problem with many of you. Like you got a good heart. You love God. You spiritual. You a good person. You a good worker. You a good employee. You're a good, you know what I'm saying? You're a good owner. You know what I'm saying? You're a good steward of things. But listen, you pull that accountability out of the equation. And listen, something that I've learned on my journey is that if you don't hold people accountable, what you're doing is you're engaging in commission. Like it's not that you did something wrong, but guess what? It's just as bad as you doing something wrong by not holding people accountable. And I realized that for years, like I would not hold certain people accountable. I would not hold my ex-wife accountable. I would not hold certain family members accountable. And so me having a nature of being a more quiet, laid back person, sometimes when you don't communicate with people, when you know what I'm saying, when you don't speak to people, when you don't communicate your perception, when you don't communicate your expectation. And listen, I was just raised like that. You know, I was raised in a household where we were taught to be quiet. Like we never asked a bunch of questions. We never spoke a lot. Matter of fact, if it got too loud in the house, like people would look at you like you crazy. So that's the background that I came from, and it impacted me as an adult because I'm always a quiet, passive type of person. But I realized some people can't handle that. Some people can't handle my personality and how I govern and how I move, because a lot of times when people come into my person, they realize like, oh, okay, he's cool. He don't have a problem with that. And some people that they can't handle that type of freedom. So they come in and they think they can do whatever they want to do. And it comes back on me because I haven't put boundaries in place. I haven't set levels of accountability for that connection. So I'm opening the door for trouble. I'm opening the door for people to come in and think that it can be a free for all when it's not that type of party. But guess what? Given the way that I was raised and how my culture and my household and my upbringing impacted and shaped and molded me, that's how I move. So guess what? I'm realizing, or I have realized, that how I move is counterproductive. So based on my own self-assessment of myself, I realized like there are some things that I have to change on my journey, that I have to move different, and that some of the problems that I incurred were a result of how I moved. And that's the level of ownership you have to take on your journey. That's the level of ownership that you have to come to understanding of if you want to reshape your destiny, if you want to reshape and transform yourself. And see, that's the thing. I believe God wants to bring us into a place where we come into transformation. See, a lot of people don't want to step into transformation because it requires sacrifice. And that's what the words say. The words say, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed. And that's what we got to step into. We got to step into a place of transformation. And let me tell you something. Transformation sounds good, but it's not easy. Transformation mean I got to change some stuff. I got to move different. But I realized something. When you step into transformation and that change starts taking effect, it's not easy. But when you see the fruit of it, it's going to bless you. When you see the fruit of it, it's going to change you. So listen, in this season, I'm stepping into transformation. I can tell you, even on my health journey, like as of this month, I probably been on this journey probably about a year now. I've been on this journey for about a year. I lost about 80 pounds, and even in me losing 80 pounds, I'm like, my health is still not where I want it to be. And I made certain changes within my household and within the way that we eat. But I realized, guess what? I realized this morning that there is another dimension of work that I have to put in if I want to get to where I want to be. It's another dimension of work. And that's the thing. You always have to be willing to make changes. You always have to be willing to do the work. So listen, in this season, unprepared. And and my wife can tell you, like, we've been working out consistently. But I realize if I want to get to where I need to go, like, I gotta step up my game. I gotta push a little bit more. I gotta do a little bit more. I gotta press in a little bit harder if I want to see the results. And not only that, I realized, like, on this weight loss journey, the minute you start slacking off, the minute you begin to get comfortable with some stuff, that same stuff that you struggle with, that same weight that you fought to get off is going to come back. Why? Because you have not transformed your health. I realized that. And so listen, that's why on my health journey, on my spiritual journey, I'm stepping to that realm of transformation. I'm stepping into the ring. I'm stepping into the box where I'm changing certain things, where I'm making adjustments. And listen, that's what you got to do on your journey, Vicky. Sometimes you got to make adjustments. Sometimes it will not be easy. Sometimes you got to walk away from stuff. Sometimes you got to turn away from stuff. Sometimes you got to get out there on your own. Sometimes you got to get on that lonely road. And listen, I was just reading about the Messiah. Listen, in Matthew chapter 26, and it gives account of when he basically went into the garden to pray. And listen, when he went into the garden to pray, he knew like what was coming. He knew that it was going to be hard and challenging times ahead. He knew it was coming. And let me tell you something. And my grandmother used to say this: if it ain't happened, keep living. Listen, hard times gonna come. Challenges are going to come. But I love what the Messiah did. He had his moment. But you know what? He had his moment, but he didn't stay in his feelings. He didn't stay in his emotions. He acknowledged that, guess what? Right now, I really don't want to go through this. And listen, we feel like that sometimes. And he say, Father, I wish this cup could pass from me. And here was the Messiah, the Son of the living God, sitting here saying like, man, I really don't want to go through this. But listen, I understand and I know and I acknowledge that I got to walk through this fire. I understand and I acknowledge that I got to go through these trials. I got to go through these battles. Beloved, you got to go through these battles. You got to overcome this stuff because number one, God designed you to do it. So you got to walk through it. You got to get through it. You're going to get through it. But it starts with your mindset. It starts with the transformation of your mind. It starts with your vision, beginning to see your way out. Even though I can't see the end, but I know something is going to happen. I know the door going to open. And that was his mindset. He was like, God, I don't know how this is a whole lot I got to deal with, but I'm not going to sit up here and complain. I'm not going to sit up here and murmur. I'm not going to sit up here and, you know what I'm saying, sit in resentment. I'm not going to sit in resentment. I'm not going to sit in guilt. I'm not going to sit in regret. Whatever has happened, whatever foundation and groundwork has been laid, it's there. You can't fight it. You can't run away from it. You can't run around it. But guess what? It's something about the promises of God that tells me that my future is going to be greater. Something great is going to happen. But in this moment, in this heavy place, in this heavy place, I got to keep pressing. I got to keep going. And that's what happens to us sometimes when we get into that heavy place, when we get on that bed of affliction, we begin to fold. We begin to fall into that place called emotion. But the Messiah self-corrected. He said, number one, he said, not my will. I'm not going to do it my way. But you want me to go through these trials and tests? You want these people to step on me and spit on me and treat me bad? I'm going to go through it. And I'm going to hang my head up high. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to be positive, even though it looks and feels like I'm losing. That's why he said, nevertheless, not my will. And that's what you have to do sometimes. Sometimes you got to deny yourself. And you know what that's called? It's called humbling yourself. Sometimes on that job, you want to curse somebody out, but you got to humble yourself. Sometimes I want to fire somebody. I want to take this type of action. I want to move with my emotions, but I got to humble myself. Why? Because the flesh is weak. The flesh want to jump into reaction. The flesh want to jump into feelings. The flesh want to jump into emotions. But he said, nevertheless, not my will. Nevertheless, my flesh may be weak in this moment, but thy will be done. I'm not going to be pulled into my emotions. I'm not going to be pulled into how I feel. I'm not going to be pulled into what happened yesterday. I'm not going to be pulled into the failures of the past, but thy will be done. And listen, I know it's your will for me to be successful. I know it's your will for me to go to the next level. I know it's your will for me to be blessed. I know it's your will for me to have a bigger family. I know it's your will for me to have a business that's successful. I know it's your will. So I got to keep pressing from the dimension where I'm sitting at right now. Listen, catch this. The Messiah, he knew he was going to be seated at the right hand of God. He knew what the plan was. But in that moment, he was in a dark place and fighting some darkness. And he knew that darkness was on the heel of him. He knew that darkness was coming for him. He knew that darkness had a plan for him. But he knew that wasn't going to be the end. And see, that's the thing. Sometimes we get in situations and we can't see the end. You're not supposed to see the end, but by faith, you're supposed to see it. Like it. Listen, in that moment when you get weak and say, Father, I wish this cup could pass from me. That's when you got to put on those faith lenses, because those faith lenses are going to let you see past the drama. It's going to let you see past the spiritual warfare. It's going to let you see past all the fight. So what are you saying today? I'm saying, man, get up and keep fighting. Get up and keep going. I'm telling you, keep standing, keep going, keep pressing. The door gonna open some way, somehow. Why? Because God already have a plan. And listen, I realized something, that all this opposition, when things go the wrong way, when things go bad, it's the will of God, because he's trying to kill or he's trying to unalive something. Oh, you ain't supposed to say those words on social media no more. He's trying to unalive something so that something else can come to life. And that's what we don't realize sometimes. Sometimes we interpret the pain as something in the realm of finite. But guess what? In God's eyes, he caused those narcissistic people to unalive your spirit, because he knew as he took you through those trials, he was going to allow you to be empty. He was going to allow you to be broken. Why? Because that's what God wants, a broken and a contrite spirit. He was going to allow you to fall to the ground so that when you get in that prostrate position, that he can outpour spiritual things into you and bring you back to life. So baby, it happened for a reason. But in your eyes, you interpreted betrayal. In your eyes, you interpreted smear campaign. You interpreted negativity. You interpreted bad feelings. But in the eyes and the perception in the will of God, he was starting your ministry. He was birthing you. He was preparing you for something bigger. He was preparing you for the glory that was about to be revealed. So understand something, beloved. Sometimes when you get betrayed, when people throw you under the bus, baby, there's a glory that's going to be revealed. Listen, when people systematically do those things to you, when those demonic forces systematically try to sway you and take you off your rocker and take you out of your lifeline, there is divine purpose that is working that you may not be able to perceive. And that's why the Messiah in Matthew chapter 26, he kept going back there to pray, because he knew that there was spiritual warfare. And he told his disciples, he went there to pray about 3 times. He was like, listen, I'm going to need y'all to stay here. I'm going to go back here and get on my face, because I need to communicate with heaven. I need a divine message. I need my divine marching orders, because I know some stuff is about to go down. And listen, that's the posture you need to be in sometimes. Sometimes you need the divine marching orders, because the spiritual warfare is encroaching on you. But baby, it ain't going to overtake you. But that's what the devil wants you to think. That's what them demons want you to think. They want you to think it's going to overtake you. They want you to think you're going to lose. They want you to think you ain't going to win. They want you to think that the door is not going to be open. But baby, that's how you feel. And that's why the word tell you that the flesh is what? The flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. This ain't the end. This ain't the end, Lisa. This is not the end. And listen, like God's timing, that's what the word tells us. It says a day with him is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. But listen, we get in our feelings because like we don't understand his timing. We don't understand his movement. Sometimes I didn't realize, like, listen, if I didn't spend 4 years in my mom's garage, it would not have led me to where I am today. So guess what? I had to be under the auspices of God's timing. Sometimes you are under the auspices of God's timing because he has to systematically and strategically orchestrate your movement. Why? Because you say, Father, not my will, but thy will be done. Why? Because if you move carnally minded, that's gonna bring you death. I'm telling you, many times in my younger years, I was straight carnally minded. My carnal mind put me in compromising situations with some compromised people. Carnal mind gonna put you in compromising situations with carnal people that ain't trying to do nothing, that ain't trying to go nowhere. But baby, they looked apart. Man, let me tell you something. I gotta talk about that a little bit. Let me tell you something. Folks who are looked apart. Folks will look the part all day, every day, any day. They will look the part. And let me tell you something. That's why you on your journey, on your prophetic journey, on your woke journey, you got to learn to look and to read what's beyond the surface. Let me tell you something. You need to learn to look and read what's beyond the surface because it's many snakes, it's many wolves out here that look like sheep. And let me tell you something, I have met some very good ones. I know some folk, even in church, even in ministry. Baby, they will fool you. You will think that they are angels of God. You will think that they are blessings of God. But baby, they're demons in disguise. So that's some real stuff. Listen, I had to learn the hard way. And let me tell you something. Sometimes God will allow you to learn the hard way because he don't want you to keep getting trapped and stuck and caught up with them demons. Let me tell you something. I know some church folk, they can preach, they can prophesy, they can pray. And listen, I'm not smear camming nobody, but let me tell you something. If you really know who these jokers really are, like you would think it would be a stumbling block with you. It would conflict your mind. But listen, that's why I realized, that you never go by what you see on the surface. And let me tell you something. Years ago, I was in the apostolic church, and it was a heavy spiritual movement in that ministry, in this ministry that I was a part of. And I had to realize something. I had to come to the realization and revelation that baby, you can have gifts all day. You can be gifted in and out. Dude, you can preach, you can prophesy, you can see things, you can call things out, you can discern mysteries. But baby, let me tell you something, what it's really about. It's really about your character. It's really about your heart. But listen, I had a mindset and I was gift prone. I was prone and attracted towards gifts. And listen, gifts are good. Gifts help us out. But baby, what's going to cause you to soar? What's going to sustain you is your character. Your character. So listen, like even when I got married in 2021, I was looking for character. Before I was looking for gift. Let me tell you something. In my younger days, I gauged everything by gift. But I realized something. Listen, that same gift of what you think is God can be the devil. That same gift of what you think of is God can very well be the enemy. But let me tell you something that can't fake. Character can't fake. You can't fake character. You can't fake fruit. But again, we become deceived because we look at it on the outside. That's why my wife said it the other day. I was having a heart-to-heart with her, and I say, listen, like, I don't just jump up and get excited about stuff. Why? Because you don't know where that's coming from. And listen, sometimes God sends it to you as a warning. Sometimes God sends it to you as an example. Sometimes the enemy sends it to you as a decoy. Let me tell you something. On my spiritual journey, I learned something. when you're seeking God for something, the enemy knows it. Listen, the enemy knows it. He sees it. And what he'll try to do is before God release the blessing, he'll send a decoy. Ask me how I know I got caught up. I got caught up for over 12 years. Why? Because I jumped and hollered at the first thing that came that was dressed up, polished up with a bow tie and looked nice. Let me tell you something, but I got burnt really bad. Burnt really, really, really bad. But listen, it had to happen because I had to learn these things. And listen, on your journey is certain things you're going to have to learn. And sometimes we keep repeating the test because we're not gaining insight. We're not learning. We're not blessing, Miss Classy. You know, we're not gaining insight. We're not articulating where we are on our journey. We're not articulating certain things. We're not articulating certain things to accountability of ourselves. And it's just real. And that's what happened, Miss Classy. So we start repeating the cycle. And that's when the curse kick in. You're repeating the cycle, doing the same stuff over and over. No, baby, you got to examine yourself. You got to search. You got to dig. You got to dig deeper. Like, why do I keep falling into that trap? Like, why do I keep doing that same stuff? Why do I keep getting caught up with the same type of people? Why do I keep getting caught up in the same situation? Why do I keep having financial issues? Why do I keep having relationship issues? Why do I keep having marital issues? And the first thing we do is we project, oh, well, that wife, she didn't treat me good. Oh, she didn't love God. Oh, that job was a terrible job. Like, no, baby. Like, what about you? And I realize that's something we do. Whenever things go bad, the first thing we do is we look on the outside. And listen, that's something as I'm stepping into transformation, I'm learning to do. I'm learning to stop saying, well, you know what? The program failed. The workers were bad. Okay, what about the leadership? What about you? What did you do? And I think that's something we do a lot of times when things go bad. The first thing we do is we look at all the outside stuff. Oh, well, he was abusive to me. He treated me bad. Okay, why was he abusive to you? Why did he treat you bad? Why did you get yourself in that situation? And listen, I'm just learning on my journey that we love to use that term loosely, accountability. But baby, let me tell you something. You got to dig deeper. You got to dig deeper. So again, man, that's just food for thought, man, on your journey. Like, it's not going to be easy. Like, sometimes the road going to get heavy. Sometimes you're not going to feel it. And I realized that comes with the territory. You ain't always going to feel like it. You always going to love it. It ain't always going to be good to you. But you got to learn and you got to know and you got to understand, listen, you're here for a reason. And you got to continue to trust that process. You got to continue to trust God's process. And listen, that's my 2 cents for the day. But again, beloved, I'm back on here. I had some stuff going on, but I'm back on here and I realized something. Like, I'm gonna stay on my post regardless. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes I don't want to be bothered. Sometimes I don't feel it. But listen, I had to read that same scripture, Matthew chapter 26. Nevertheless, not my will. Maybe somebody need to hear from me. Maybe I need to hear from somebody else. But guess what? If God instructed me to do it, if he assigned me to be there, then guess what? Show up. And I realized something that, Grandpa, we ain't trusting no God. Well, you could hit the X button, buddy, and clear it, man. Bless you. But yeah, I realized something, man. Like, if God put you up to it, then baby, you got to do it. That's just some real talk, man. And God put me up to it, and I'm going to do it. In spite of the haters and the negativity and the ignorant people and the narcissistic people and the demonic people. Grandpa, this is YouTube stuff. Well, and stuff like that, But like I said, I realized, man, I'm going to keep pressing on. I'm gonna keep pressing on. I'm gonna keep pressing it. And I realized something. This is another nugget too. Like, if you want to do God's will, like, he gotta break you to the point where what people say, do, and how other people feel don't impact you. Let me tell you something. I learned that prophetically. Like, if you wanna walk according to the will and the voice of God, Like you literally have to have the posture that, hey, how somebody think or what somebody feel is not going to impede my obedience. It's not going to have bearing on how I move. Like you literally got to get into a place where what people say, what people do, and how people feel does not impact you. Because if you become a people pleaser, if you worrying about what people say, you already compromised. You gonna need some more work. I'm gonna back that thing up for you, right? Listen, if you want to walk according to the will of God, if you want to walk and flow in the power of God, baby, you got to reach the point on your walk. You got to reach the point. You got to come into the dimension where what nobody says or does is going to impact your flow. That's some real stuff right there. I had to learn that. I had to learn that. You literally gotta sit in that thing. You literally gotta sit in that posture if you want to see that thing activate. And let me tell you something. If you sit in a place of compromise where you struggling, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Well, I don't know what they gonna say. I don't know how they gonna feel. No, baby, you gotta do as you are instructed. Listen, you got to flow with the power. You got to flow with the spirit. And listen, sometimes flowing with the spirit means flowing against the current or the grain of what your family, your friends, and your household is talking about. Listen, sometimes I gotta flow with the vein of the spirit. And baby, my partner ain't on that page. You know what I'm saying? That's some real stuff. Sometimes I gotta flow with the vein of the spirit. People around me ain't on that page. Why? Because the flesh is weak. Because we often subject ourselves to the weakness of the flesh. But baby, the spirit is willing. And that's why, guess what? Sometimes I separate myself. I try to shift into what God is saying. I try to shift into what the Holy Spirit is doing. And listen, it ain't easy because all the faces around you gonna be looking sideways. All the faces around you gonna be looking contorted. They gonna be looking crazy. And let me tell you something. I realized that you got to get into that place where what people say about you and how people feel don't matter. And listen, I've come to that place on my journey. I could care less what people say. I can care less what people say or how people feel or what people think. Why? Because listen, I've walked down those roads. I've been a people pleaser. I've been worried about what other people think. And let me tell you something. A lot of times you'll sit up worrying about what people think, and they'll change like that. And a lot of times too, it don't matter what you do with certain folks. It don't matter what you say. They already have their predetermined perception and opinion based on their ignorance. That's some real stuff. Some people have predetermined perceptions. Listen, some people's perceptions and feelings have been shaped by other people. Some people's perceptions and feelings have been shaped by religion. Some people's feelings and perception have been shaped by social media. Sometimes people go off of what somebody else said. And let me tell you, that's some real stuff. That's why you got to be careful who you feed from. And I'm going to just tell on myself. And I realized this like years ago, man. I was a diehard Tupac fan. I love Tupac. If you said something about Tupac back in the 90s, I probably would fight you. And listen, he came out with some underground lost tape stuff talking about Jay-Z. For years, I could not stand him. But I realized like that's a dimension of witchcraft. Like, I bought into how somebody else feels and what they perceive because I bought into them. So I allowed how they felt to shape how I felt. Some real stuff. And I realized, I'm like, wow, that's just how witchcraft works. And not only that, but I saw it in my own family. One person don't like another person, so everybody can't stand that person. The power of influence. But that's why I realized, listen, like I cannot allow what people think, what people say, their perceptions, their beliefs, listen, I done ran into so many different church folks and false prophets that think this and perceive that and say that. Listen, I learned I had to throw all that out the window. I had to throw it all out the window. Why? Because I want to know what the Most High think. You know what I'm saying? I want to know how the Most High feels about something. And let me tell you something. You start tapping into the Most High and how he feel and what he thinking. It's a different perception. It's a different walk. It's a different movement. Not only that, but listen, your eyes going to be open. You going to start seeing things. You going to start perceiving things. You going to start seeing pattern of things. You going to start seeing patterns of spirituality and of spirits. That's some real stuff. But I had to realize that, listen, that's why I don't like to just go by what people tell me. But listen, I like to wait and examine fruit. I like to start peeling back the onions. I like to start looking at the writing. Baby, the writing on the wall gonna tell you something. Listen, you could tell me whatever you want out of your mouth in that moment, but the writing on the wall, the red flags, and your fruit is going to tell me who you really are. Who is that? Your fruit gonna tell me who you are. So listen, I gotta hit that point again. That's how I was. I was compelled by gifts. Listen, nowadays, how gifted you are, how talented you are, what you have, don't move me. Because I realized something, like if you want to build something, if you want to go somewhere, you gotta be surrounded with the people that have the right heart. Listen, one time I was doing business with some folk, and like, listen, they were well off, but their hearts were in the wrong place. Listen, their minds were in the wrong place. And listen, somebody scorned me. They was like, man, why you stop rocking with them? Like and here it is, years later, they falling apart. Why? Because they didn't do the work. They didn't do the spiritual work. Listen, they didn't do what was right. And so what happened is that evil, that betrayal, that negativity, all the bad stuff that they was operating in became a cancer. Let me tell you something. If you want to do anything, you got to have character. You got to have love. Let me tell you something. Is if there's no love where you are in your family or whatever you engaging in, baby, that cancer of darkness and evil is going to start small, and it's going to grow, and it's going to erode everything. That's some real stuff. Where there's no love, there's DEATH. There's DEATH. So listen, again, this journey, man, it ain't an easy journey. But just like in Matthew 26, that's what the Messiah did. He was like, nevertheless, like I'm not gonna sit here and faint. I'm not gonna fall. I'm not gonna let God down. I'm not gonna let the people around me down. Listen, you right now, you in your fight, you in your battle for a purpose. Like it's not just about you. Like your survival, your thriving is not just about you, but there are other people that are connected to you, that are depending on you to step into the dimension that God has called you into in order for them to be birthed. And we don't realize that sometimes, Roberta, sometimes like people are waiting on us to be birthed. Sometimes people are waiting on us to get into a certain dimension because listen, if we can get into that posture, if we can get into that authority, we can command certain things that will help other people and pull other people up. That's what ministry is about. But listen, we like to run around here and play church. Listen, I had it with playing church. That's why you don't see me in the pulpit today, but you see me right here on this camera dropping these nuggets. You see me right here on this camera fighting these devils. Real talk. But again, beloved, I'll be back on here next week. I think I'm going to change up my time schedule, change up my flow. And I realize that's something about the Holy Spirit. Like sometimes the Holy Spirit, he changed stuff. Why? Because he's moving. He's trying to do something. So listen, when certain things change, pay attention. It might be for a reason. Listen, sometimes that job may be not working out. That situation might not be working out because something else is getting ready to birth. But we struggling because we like, oh my God, this job is not working out. What am I going to, baby, something else is birthing. Something else is brewing. Something else is getting ready to come into fruition. But we interpret it as punitive. Like, man, God, why are you letting this happen? Why are you letting me fall behind on these bills? Why? Because something else is brewing. But you're not focused. You're not paying attention to what you need to be paying attention to. But you're focusing on the big problem that's in your face. And listen, it's a lot of solutions that's probably hovering and lingering right around the problem. But you so focused on the problem. But listen, the solution is hovering all around the problem. So, beloved, today I want you this week to pay attention. Stop complaining about it. Stop trying to do stuff about stuff that you cannot fix. But listen, do what you can do with the power that God has given you. And listen, sometimes we think that we need to take a big step. No, listen, get into your prayer closet. Get focused. The answer is coming. The door is opening. It's shifting. It's moving. You just got to pay attention. How do I know? Because you sitting up here complaining and worrying about it. That ain't going to help the situation. The solution is in the atmosphere. That's what the word says. The word says, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. So listen, ain't no poverty in you. Listen, ain't no despair in you. It ain't over yet. Ain't no defeat in you. It's just that door got closed. That battle got lost. Baby, sometimes you gotta lose that battle to win the war. Sometimes you gotta lose a battle. Sometimes you gotta take a L. And I realize that sometimes, and listen, I told that about my wife in a job situation. I say, you know what? Sometimes just take the L. Because you know why? By faith, I know and I see and I perceive another door is opening. So sometimes you got to take that L in that dimension. But guess what? By faith, another door is open. Listen, sometimes, Lisa, sometimes you got to stop fighting. Sometimes you got to stop fighting. Sometimes we fight too hard with the wrong stuff. And I realized that. I'm like, man, I'm fighting this. But guess what? I'm fighting the wrong way. And guess what? And let me tell you something, even in the business realm right now, I stepped back and I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna do it your way. Guess what? Little doors start opening. That's why I was so busy even last weekend. Little doors starting to open because I stepped back. I was like, okay, God, like, I know you know the way. And guess what? God had to humble me to make it happen. So he humbled me. And so guess what? Little doors, little opportunities have begun. So I'm like, okay, God, now you're speaking to me. Now you're telling me something. And listen, I realized that it was an answer to a prayer. And listen, a lot of times God is releasing it to you, but because it's not coming how you thought it was going to happen, or you felt it should happen, or you believe it could happen, it's hard for you to receive it. It's hard for you to see it. And let me tell you something. You don't know the vision. You don't know what can blow up. You don't know how the doors can open. You don't know how it can shift. God knows. And listen, sometimes we be in the right vein, sometimes we be in the wrong vein. And listen, sometimes when we step into that right vein, the enemy and yourself push you out. And listen, that's why the Apostle Paul said this. He said, listen, I got a war inside my members. When I do good, evil is present. When I do evil, good. So in other words, like, I'm fighting with myself too. I'm fighting with and like, even when God opened those opportunity and opened those doors for me, I struggled. But guess what? He knew what I needed. So he sent my wife with me in certain areas where I was like, that ain't my field. I don't want to be doing all this talking and this and that. And listen, if I'm preaching or prophesying, I could talk to that day and night. But regular engaging relationship communication, that ain't my specialty, because I'll get around you and be quiet. Relationship communication, that ain't my specialty, because I'll get around you and be quiet. Yep. Yep. But that's my word, beloved. That's my word for the day. But beloved, like I said, I'm gonna be back on here next week for sure. Jumping back to my Sundays. God bless you, Roberta. But yeah, like I say, man, don't be discouraged. Like it's gonna happen. The door gonna open. Like keep going, keep going. I know it get heavy. Sometimes you ask yourself, like, how did I get here? Why am I in this? Sometimes you feel straight stuck. But listen, you're not stuck. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, man. For sure, it's gonna happen for sure. Just stay in it. And let me tell you something. Sometimes the truth is, God's process is not overnight. Like I can tell you, like just rewinding the clock, where I was back in 2020, where I am today is a miracle. And I thank God for it. But again, in order for me to get to this place, certain stuff I had to go through. Because if I didn't go through it, I would have never been able to leave. And that's the thing. Some of you are right now, your plane is circling the tarmac. Why? Because it's certain things that have to be dealt with. It's certain things that need to come in order. And that's what God had to do. He had to bring certain things in order before he got me here. So listen, trust the process. Humble yourself. Yield to the process. It may seem difficult. And let me tell you something. Before I got married in 2021, I was by myself. I knew I had to be by myself. And there was so many times of temptation. But I knew the cost. I knew the price of me going back to the old stuff. I knew the price of it. So I was like, I'm not willing to pay to go in circles again. So again, beloved, like it's a price you gotta pay. But let me tell you something. When you pay that price, I thank God I took those sacrifices. I thank God that I subjected myself to celibacy. I thank God that not only celibacy, but just closing myself off in relationships. Like I did. It was hard. It was difficult as a man to do that. It was difficult. But guess what? Most of the difficulty was in my mind. Because once you start doing it, once you get into that groove, you gonna shift. And not only are you gonna shift, but you gonna see the results. The results gonna manifest. Listen, it's gonna manifest when you obey. And that's why the word tell you, like, he won't hold no good thing if you walk upright. He won't withhold no good thing if you do the work. It won't be withheld. So listen, do the work. Stop being lazy. Stop being complaining. Stop being slack. Listen, stop your pity party. Listen, get into your prayer zone. Get into your strategy zone. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen for you. It shall happen. It will happen. Will it happen the way you want it? It might happen in baby steps. It might happen suddenly. It may happen instantly. But just know that it is going to happen. And listen, that's the word for the day, beloved. So God bless you. I'm going to catch y'all next week. I ain't gonna tell you the time. I feel like the Most High is changing the time, changing how I move, and I'm moving with the cloud of glory. God bless each and every one of you, and I'll see y'all next week.